name's Michael Dwan Herrick. I'm a psychotherapist and a life coach with over 40 years of experience, currently in private practice in London. In this video, I'll talk about the special challenges to embarking on a so-called hero's journey in midlife or even later. For those of you who may not know what the hero's journey is, it's a term introduced by American mythologist and writer Joseph Campbell in his book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, published in 1949. Campbell explored the common patterns found in myths, legends, and religious stories from various cultures throughout history. He identified a recurring narrative structure that he termed the monomyth, or more popularly, the hero's journey. This is a set of stages and archetypes that are present in many heroic tales worldwide. Even if you're familiar with the stages of the hero's journey, you may not have thought about what might be different and more challenging about it when it's embarked upon later in life. That's what I want to talk about. Briefly, before delving into this topic, if you've subscribed to this channel because you're following my series on questioning woke psychotherapy, I want you to know that I'll be continuing that series indefinitely until there's no longer a need for it. Meanwhile, as my original intention for this channel was to offer content on personal development, I'll continue to do that too. Perhaps, even if you're most keen to hear me challenge woke psychotherapy, you will also be interested in other topics, like this one, that explore personal development. Because this topic is potentially vast and probably would require a fat book to explore properly, I'll just be providing a sketch. So let's get started. Before laying out the stages of the hero's journey, I want to point to some examples in films that most people will be familiar with. This will give you a way to fill in some details of what it can look like as I describe its stages. Consider these films, which you may have seen: Star Wars, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Matrix, The Lion King, the Harry Potter series, The Wizard of Oz, Moana. These are just a few, but once you recognize the basic pattern, you'll see it repeat again and again in film and literature. So, what are the stages? First, if you like this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe to my channel, click the bell for notifications, leave me a comment, and share it with a friend. If you do any or all of these things, I'll greatly appreciate it. It'll help my channel to grow. Thanks. Okay, now on to the stages. The hero's journey, as outlined by Joseph Campbell, consists of 17 key stages. I'll share an abbreviated version here to represent a commonly recognized basic structure. First, we start in the ordinary world. This is the hero's normal life before the adventure begins. It establishes the hero's baseline or status quo and the context for their journey. Think of Dorothy in Kansas, or Forrest Gump starting off in Greenbow, Alabama. Next comes the call to adventure. The hero receives a call to action or adventure, often in the form of a problem, challenge, or opportunity that disrupts their ordinary world. Might be an actual problem imposing on them, or be delivered by someone inviting or recruiting them for an important cause. Think of Neo and the Matrix being presented with the red and the blue pills. The next stage is called refusal of the call. The hero initially hesitates or resists the call, either due to fear, self-doubt, or a sense of unpreparedness for the journey. Think of Simba and the Lion King refusing the call to return to Pride Rock and reclaim his place as king after the death of his father, Mufasa. Meeting the mentor. The hero encounters a mentor or guide who provides wisdom, advice, or tools to help them overcome challenges and embark on the journey. Think of Gandalf for Bilbo, or Yoda for Luke Skywalker, or Glinda the Good Witch for Dorothy. Crossing the threshold. The hero makes a conscious decision to leave their ordinary world and enter the unknown or special world. This marks the beginning of their adventure. Think of Frodo leaving the Shire, or Harry Potter leaving for Hogwarts, or Dorothy again, embarking on the Yellow Brick Road. Next, tests, allies, and enemies. The hero faces a series of tests, encounters allies and enemies, and begins to learn the rules of the new world. These challenges contribute to the hero's growth and development. You can think of Katniss in the Hunger Games for this. Approach to the innermost cave. The hero approaches a central, dangerous challenge or ordeal. This could be a physical location or a metaphorical inner conflict that they must confront. You could think of Indiana Jones entering the Temple of the Sun in the search for the Holy Grail in the 1989 film Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Now, the ordeal. The hero experiences a major crisis or faces their greatest fear. This is a pivotal moment that often leads to the hero's transformation. You could think of Maximus in the film The Gladiator fighting the Emperor in the Colosseum. Next stage, rewards, which is sometimes called seizing the sword. After overcoming the ordeal, the hero receives a reward, which could be an object, knowledge, or newfound power that will aid them in their journey. Here you could think of Neo embracing his role as the One and gaining the power to confront the machines and manipulate the Matrix. Next, the road back. The hero begins the journey back to their ordinary world, facing further challenges and obstacles along the way. Here, you could think of Marty McFly in the DeLorean time machine trying to get back to 1985. The next stage is called Resurrection. The hero faces a final test or ordeal, often a more significant challenge than before, which leads to a further transformation or a literal or symbolic rebirth. Think of Andy Dufresne's escape from Shawshank Prison, emerging free after years of injustice. Return with the elixir. The hero returns to the ordinary world with the knowledge, power, or insight gained during the journey. This newfound wisdom often has a positive impact on the hero's life and the community which he's returned to. You could think of Aaron Brockovich returning with the elixir of justice for families affected by the town's contaminated water supply. There are variations in how the hero's journey is told in myth, story, and film, but this is a general pattern. It's interesting and fun to be equipped to analyze films and literature with this understanding. But it's another thing to apply it to one's own life. Have you taken the hero's journey? Are you on one now? Or perhaps have you received the call and are wondering whether or not to heed it? The protagonist of most heroes' journeys is a young person. Occasionally an older person will embark on such an ordeal, but the outcome is less certain. Sometimes it's successful, but many times it's not. Consider the difference between Odysseus and Santiago in Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. Odysseus was not an old man, but neither was he young. In the end, his journey was successful, and he managed to return home to his wife Penelope and his son Telemachus. On the other hand, consider Santiago. He accepts the call to set out on a challenging sea expedition to catch a giant marlin. His journey is one of struggle and endurance against the harsh realities of life. But despite his heroic efforts, his quest is thwarted when sharks attack and devour the marlin, leaving Santiago with only its skeletal remains. So what is it that makes the hero's journey more difficult in middle age and older compared to youth? What are the unique perils and pitfalls of coming to it at a later age? Well, first of all, there's usually more to lose. Investments have been made. Money and time have been spent on an education. Perhaps a career or work path has been established. An entire supportive social network has been built slowly over time. A house has been bought. A reputation earned, and commitments have been made to others. Maybe one has a family and has assumed responsibility for their provision. A spouse and children have needs and expectations and will suffer if they're not met. There's a structure to one's life, which could be all put to risk if one heeds a call to adventure. The structure of a young person's life has not yet been so well established. Also, one's body isn't what it used to be. There are pains, there's less stamina, things don't all work or move like they used to, and there's less time to complete the journey, and even less time to rebuild one's life if it fails. On top of all of this, the longer we live, the more habits become ingrained and provide familiar comfort, even if we may be dissatisfied with our life in general. Aging can bring increased sense of inertia. If you're an older person, can you relate to this? Do you recognize any of it being true for you? Has this made you reject the call? If so, have you considered the cost of not answering the call and embarking on such a journey? Perhaps a less authentic life, a less meaningful and fulfilling life, a relentless submission to pervasive mediocrity, the accumulated consequences of life stealing moderate stress over time. What else? What would be the cost for you? The call to the hero's journey can come in different forms. Externally, it could be a divorce or the death of a partner. It could be the loss of a job, a life-threatening illness, a late onset disability, or a life-altering accident. For some, such events can make the hero's journey seem like it isn't a choice, but it is. Instead of embarking, one can descend into depression, addiction, and resignation. While such things may be the first part of the journey, like contending with ogres and dragons of myth and fairy tales, the journey will be short, incomplete, and fail if such things are not overcome. And when the call comes internally, from within our own mind and heart, is filled as a deep dissatisfaction with the status quo and a longing for something better. Sometimes this feeling is so acute that it seems there's no choice but to act on it. Often, however, because one's circumstances are materially comfortable enough and bearable for the moment, one chooses to ignore the call. I can't tell you that the hero's journey must be taken, whether early or late in life. Hell, most people opt out of it altogether. But what I can suggest is that there are costs and benefits either way, and you need to weigh them up for yourself. There's a common connotation to the idea of the so-called midlife crisis. It's frequently ridiculed and seen as frivolous and futile in its attempt to recapture one's lost youth. The stereotype of red sports cars and boob jobs come to mind. While I think it's right to be skeptical of such things, perhaps even poke fun at them, I believe that underlying them is often a less conscious and far more profound need going on. That need is to feel vitally connected to the experience, that one's life is being spent in a worthwhile way. So if your current path is hard and painful and sometimes boring, and you have an impulse towards some kind of exciting relief, and you have a strong nostalgia for your lost youth, just maybe it's not a call to the hero's journey. Maybe it's the call of the sirens luring you to wreck your ship on the rocks. Maybe you are already on a hero's journey, and this is an invitation to abort it. Or maybe you've gone somewhere exciting, but come back to the ordinary world with no elixir. Imagine Frodo and Sam checking into a strip club and casino in Mordor. No one can tell you whether you are hearing sirens or a hero's call. No one can tell you whether or not to follow the call, even if it is to the hero's journey. You have to figure it out yourself. Make a decision and live with the consequences either way. If you are at midlife or later, and you are contemplating responding to such a call, here are a few general tips. Be clear about where you want to go. You probably don't have time or resources to just say, fuck it, and go on an aimless walkabout like a 20-year-old. Make a clear and realistic plan for how you're going to take this journey. Take an inventory of your resources, both material and in terms of your knowledge, skills, talents, and social connections. You will need all of these provisions. Be as certain as possible that what you're pursuing is your own authentic desire and not someone else's dream or expectations of you. There has to be a spark of passion and joy for you at the bottom of it all, or it won't work. Look around for allies and recruit them. You'll need their support. If possible, find a mentor or some kind of wizard to provide wisdom and guidance, and perhaps even teach you something like magic. Yeah, you've been around the block already, and you may think you're quite a smarty pants, but be humble enough to realize you'll need the help of someone who knows more than you do. Learn about your enemies before you embark. Who are they? What are they likely to do? How can you keep them from defeating you? And not all of your enemies will be external. The worst ones will be your own self-sabotaging beliefs and behaviors. Get a handle on this before you put everything on the line and leave the Shire. Be prepared to encounter supremely challenging obstacles and set your intention to not give up. It is there that the most important transformation will take place and the most powerful elixir discovered. If this wasn't true, it wouldn't be called a hero's journey. Set your intention and plot your way back to the ordinary world with some vision or gift or elixir that you hope to be able to offer. You may not wind up back exactly where you left, but you'll land somewhere, and it will include people who will need something. I've decided to break this presentation into 2 parts. Otherwise, it might be too long, and you might not watch it to the end. I highly encourage you to watch part 2. There, I'll present a different approach to the hero's journey for older people, one that is more manageable than being swept away to Munchkin land by a tornado, but still powerful. I think you'll find it interesting and useful. That's it for now. Take care of yourself and each other, and I hope you'll join me for the next video. Until then, may you find a way to be your own hero. Bye for now.